The NFL is officially on fire again. And this time, it's all because of one name, Shedeur Sanders. Yep, the rookie quarterback who was supposed to be the Browns' future is now at the center of a swirling, chaotic storm that has fans, insiders, and even rival execs wondering, did Cleveland just throw away their golden ticket? Because rumors are swirling, and not the quiet, behind-the-scenes type. We're talking loud, messy, front page of every sports site kind of buzz.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Whispers turned into leaks, and leaks became headlines. And the story? It's jaw-dropping. The Browns are shopping Shedeur Sanders. And the front-runner to grab him? Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Yep, let that one marinate. Dallas. The franchise that eats chaos for breakfast. The team that hasn't met a quarterback controversy it didn't love. A team that treats press conferences like red carpets and contract negotiations like reality TV. That's who might be landing the most polarizing, hyped-up, underplayed rookie in recent memory. And Cleveland? They're on the verge of fumbling this entire bag. Let's back up for a second. Shedeur wasn't just drafted to be a clipboard holder. He came in as a legit prospect, smart, poised, marketable, and dangerous when given a shot. But instead of building around him, what did the Browns do? They buried him. Third string. Practice reps. Special team scout look QB. They treated him like a long-term project instead of a walking brand with the skill to back it up. And while Shedeur handled it with class, staying locked in, grinding, not running to the media, he saw the writing on the wall. The frustration wasn't just brewing inside him. It was boiling in the fan base. Every time the Browns' offense sputtered, people asked the same question. Why isn't Shedeur on the field? And now, they might not get the chance to see it because he could be heading to a franchise that thrives on spectacle, isn't afraid of big personalities, and has an owner who'd love nothing more than to stick it to the league with a blockbuster trade. But let's not miss the real scandal here. If this trade goes through, it's not just about Sanders leaving. It's about what it says about the Browns. It's a flashing neon sign that reads, "We still don't know how to handle a quarterback." And after years of misses, messes, and mismanagement, this one might be unforgivable. Especially if Shedeur blows up in Dallas, lights up primetime, and becomes everything Cleveland never let him be. So now, the NFL waits and watches. Because if Andrew Berry actually pulls the trigger, it won't just be a trade. It'll be a legacy-shifting, fan-base dividing, league-rattling, culture-exposing meltdown. And somehow, it's very on brand for the Browns. Because if Andrew Berry actually goes through with trading Shedeur Sanders, if he sends this generational talent packing before he even gets a real shot under center, then he's not just making a bad move. He's rewriting the Browns' legacy in real time. And not in a good way. Let's be honest, this isn't just about football anymore. It's about pride. It's about perception. And above all else, it's about power. Because right now, the Browns are playing with something way bigger than a roster spot. They're playing with reputation, with trust, with the hearts of a fan base that has been bruised, battered, and borderline betrayed more times than any group of sports fans should ever be. Let's not pretend we don't know the history here. This team has whiffed on more quarterback decisions than we can count. Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield. The list reads like a cautionary tale written by a haunted GM. Every time the fan base dares to believe, every time they think the next guy might be the guy, something happens. Mismanagement, poor development, panic moves, and poof, another savior is gone. And now, it's happening again. Except this time, they're not even pretending it's about football. Because here's the thing, nobody is arguing Shedeur can't play. Not after what he showed in camp. Not after his preseason flashes. Not after the way his teammates rallied around him during practices. Not after the moments he looked more like a leader than the two QBs ahead of him on the depth chart combined. So why is he being treated like a footnote? Why are the Browns willing to send him to Dallas, the NFL's headquarters of mayhem and marketing, instead of giving him even a whiff of a starting shot. Well, if you believe the whispers, it's ego. Somewhere inside that front office, there are decision-makers who feel threatened. Threatened by his swagger. Threatened by his image. Threatened by the idea that a rookie could take over the room without ever asking for it. They weren't ready for Shedeur Sanders. So instead of adapting to him, they're pushing him out. But let's talk Dallas for a second. Because Jerry Jones? He's licking his lips at this opportunity. Say what you want about the Cowboys, but one thing's always been true. They know how to sell a star. And Shedeur? He's not just a quarterback. He's a walking headline factory. He's TikTok clips, ESPN segments, nil flash, and Sunday swagger all rolled into one. He's got the arm, the reads, the presence, and oh yeah, a last name that already carries weight. You drop him into that Cowboys roster, even as a backup, and within 3 weeks, he's the most talked about player in the building. Dak Prescott throws one bad interception. The fans are chanting for Shedeur. ESPN's running polls on who should start. NFL memes pages? All in. Because Jerry knows the power of perception. And unlike Cleveland, he's not afraid of a little quarterback drama. He thrives on it. So you tell me, does that sound like a guy who's going to sit on the bench for long? Of course not. This isn't a developmental year for Shedeur in Dallas. This is a launch pad. And Cleveland? They'll be watching their potential franchise QB throw dimes in primetime from the couch. Because make no mistake, the moment this trade becomes real, the Browns aren't just losing a player. They're handing over the future to a team that doesn't even need it. They're swapping potential for politics, hope for headlines, and once again telling their fan base, trust the process, even when the process looks a lot like sabotage. And let's talk about that fan base for a second, because they're not stupid. They see what's happening. They've watched this team flail through quarterback missteps for years. They've heard every excuse. They've been promised that this time is different more times than they can count. And yet, here we are again. Another young, talented, dynamic quarterback, wasted, mistreated, pushed out the door before he even got the keys. What message does that send? To the fans, to the locker room, to future rookies who get drafted into this system that's supposed to nurture talent? It says this: if you don't play the political game just right, even greatness won't save you. And that's a dangerous message. Because while Dallas is preparing to roll out the red carpet, drop a Shedeur jersey in every team shop from Texas to Tokyo, and juice the ratings for every game he even might appear in, Cleveland is left wondering how they lost control of the narrative so fast. Andrew Berry is supposed to be the forward-thinking GM, the analytics guy, the strategist. But this? Trading away a potential star quarterback just because the coaching staff didn't know how to handle him? That's not forward-thinking. That's panic, wrapped in PR, masked as a tactical decision. Let's be real. The minute this becomes official, Berry better be ready for the storm. Because the media isn't going to ask polite questions. They're going to tear into this. Why give up on a rookie with this much upside? What happened behind closed doors? Why didn't Stefanski give him a shot? Did the team fail to develop another quarterback again? And guess who else will be watching? Every player in that locker room. Don't underestimate how closely teammates watch this kind of thing. They saw how Shedeur worked. They saw how hard he grinded. And if the Browns ship him out without ever letting him compete, that sends a message. Loud, clear, and demoralizing. Because you can't preach accountability and best player plays and earn your snaps, and then turn around and dump a guy just because he didn't fit into your fragile little hierarchy. So yeah, it's not just a trade. It's a referendum on how the Browns handle talent, on whether they can be trusted with the future, on whether this team has finally learned anything from 2 decades of dysfunction. And if they haven't, Shedeur's not the one who'll be humiliated. It'll be Cleveland. Again. And this time, there may be no coming back from it. Let's peel back the final layers of this beautiful disaster the Browns are orchestrating. Because if we're being honest, we're not just witnessing a bad football decision. We're watching a franchise implode in slow motion. And not because of injury. Not because of bad luck. No, because of insecurity. Because of the fear of handing over power to a rookie who refuses to grovel, who won't sit quietly in the corner and learn the system when he already knows how to lead. Let's stop pretending this is about football. Shedeur Sanders walked into that locker room with the poise of a 10-year vet. He didn't demand attention, he attracted it. Teammates gravitated toward him. Coaches, even the skeptical ones, admitted he had something. But instead of feeding that flame, what did Cleveland do? They buried it. They stuck him behind a fading vet, then behind another rookie with half the resume. And when the media asked about Shedeur's future, the answers were always robotic. He's developing. We like his progress. He's doing what we've asked. Translation? We're scared of what he might do if we give him the reins. Because you give Shedeur Sanders the keys to the franchise. And guess what? He drives it. He doesn't just run the offense. He starts redefining what the franchise looks like, what it means. And for a team like Cleveland, which has spent decades struggling with identity, that's terrifying. But you know who isn't afraid of that? Jerry Jones. Let's talk about that man for a second, because this is where it gets delicious. Jerry loves three things: winning, headlines, stars who act like stars. And Shedeur Sanders? He's a perfect storm. The swagger, the talent, the last name, the story. It practically sells itself. And if you think Jerry doesn't see the marketing potential, the jersey sales, the TikTok highlights, the documentary series that could come out of a Sanders-led Cowboys team, then you don't know Jerry Jones. This isn't just a trade to him. It's primetime content. It's network deals. It's eyeballs. It's every NFL Sunday turning into a spectacle the league can't ignore. And on the field, the upside is insane. Because let's be honest, the Cowboys like Dak Prescott. But they're not married to him. Not in the way teams are married to Burrow, Mahomes, or Allen. And if Dak has even a slightly shaky stretch, you think Cowboys fans aren't going to be screaming for Shedeur? They've seen what happens when you unleash a young QB with confidence and talent. They watched it with Tony Romo. They watched it with Dak himself. And they'll be more than ready to embrace it again, this time with a quarterback who was raised under the spotlight. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, they'll be running damage control. And the PR spin? Oh, it's going to be wild. We'll get statements about doing what's best for both parties, about depth chart decisions, maybe even something about culture fits. But behind closed doors, there's going to be panic. Because when Shedeur lights it up in Dallas, when he does the exact things Cleveland didn't let him do, the finger-pointing will begin. And it won't stop. Fans will rage. Local media will tear into Barry. Stefanski? If he's still employed, the pressure will hit asteroid level. The locker room will fracture, especially among the young players who saw Shedeur as the real deal. Because nothing destroys morale like watching your leaders sabotage talent. Nothing fractures trust like knowing the best player wasn't allowed to compete because he made the wrong people uncomfortable. And here's the thing the Browns clearly forgot. The NFL is a players' league now. The days of front offices pulling all the strings while the athletes know their place. That era's dying fast. Players have platforms. They have leverage. And more importantly, they have loyalty to each other. You think the guys on that roster don't see how Shedeur's being treated? They do. And when they see him flourishing somewhere else, you think they're going to forget it? Laugh it off? Hell no. They're going to remember that Cleveland had him, that they wasted him, that they watched a star walk out the door so the organization could protect its fragile ego. And that resentment? It lingers. It affects effort, culture, buy-in, recruitment, everything. This trade doesn't just risk losing a player. It risks poisoning the entire locker room. And what's the upside? A couple draft picks? Maybe a depth piece? There's no package in the world that justifies giving up a young quarterback with the ceiling Shedeur has, unless he's already failed. And here's the kicker. He hasn't. He hasn't had the chance to fail. He hasn't been given the reps. He hasn't been given a scheme tailored to his strengths. He hasn't been allowed to lead a drive, let alone a game. So the narrative that this is some calculated move based on tape or performance? Total fiction. This is about fear. Fear of change. Fear of power shifts. Fear of what happens when a 21-year-old walks in and commands a room full of grown men like he's already the CEO. And if you're too scared to let that happen, then you don't deserve to build a dynasty. You deserve to watch one form somewhere else. So go ahead, Cleveland. Make the trade. Let Shedeur go to Dallas, light it up under Jerry's circus tent, and watch your own quarterback carousel start spinning again. Because we all know how this ends. Not in week 1, not in week 8, but in January, when Cleveland's watching the playoffs from home again, and Shedeur's walking into a primetime wildcard game in Cowboy silver and blue. Confident, prepared, unbothered, and most of all, ready. The way he always was. You just didn't see it. Or worse, you did, and let him walk anyway. Because at this point, this isn't just a story about a quarterback getting traded. It's a full-on franchise morality play. A Shakespearean collapse where pride, insecurity, and misjudgment collide on the 50-yard line. And Shedeur Sanders? He's the tragic hero you underestimated, until he flipped the script and rewrote the ending. Let's be clear, Shedeur didn't ask for this chaos. He came in with the right attitude, said all the right things, showed up early, left late. He put his head down and went to work. He earned respect, earned reps. He proved, day in and day out, that he could read NFL defenses, command a huddle, and throw with timing and touch that you don't just develop in a year. That's natural talent. That's bloodline football. But what did he get in return? Crickets. A padded sideline seat and a clipboard. And now that he's being eyed by Dallas? Now that Jerry Jones is circling like a vulture with a checkbook and a camera crew? Now Cleveland wants to act like this was always part of the plan? Please, let's not insult anyone's intelligence. This wasn't strategy. It was stalling. It was the football equivalent of "we'll circle back." A slow ghosting wrapped in, "we love what he brings to the room" nonsense. The truth is, they never planned to build around him. Because he didn't fit the template. He didn't just want to be a great quarterback. He wanted to be a brand. He didn't just study the playbook. He wanted to own the room. And for some old-school front offices, that's too much. It's intimidating. It's unfamiliar. It's dangerous. But in today's NFL, that's exactly what you need. This league isn't just about scheme and tape anymore. It's about identity. It's about movement. About cultural gravity. About connecting with a younger audience that doesn't care about passer rating. They care about relevance. Shedeur had that in spades. And now you want to hand him to the Cowboys? Do you understand what Dallas is going to do with him? They'll give him his own pregame segment. They'll throw him into brand meetings before he takes a single snap. He'll be the face of the franchise before his first touchdown. And then they'll let him cook on the field. And that's where the real problem begins for Cleveland. Because once he shows what he can do in a system that trusts him, once he gets even a whiff of first-team reps with NFL-caliber weapons, and a line that actually holds, it's over. The comparisons will come fast. Why didn't Cleveland build around him? Why didn't he get a chance? What were they thinking? And those questions? They don't go away. They haunt. They haunt every QB who follows him. Every coach who has to answer for it. Every scout who vouched for staying the course while the future of the team walked out the front door. And you know what's really twisted? This might not even be the worst-case scenario. Because if Shedeur blows up in Dallas, the Browns don't just look stupid. They become a cautionary tale. A don't-be-like-them story for every front office with a polarizing player. A cultural touchstone for how not to handle a star. They become the franchise that had it all and let it go because it made them uncomfortable. And that label? It sticks. Because unlike other mistakes, the kind where a player busts or gets hurt or flames out, this one has receipts. There's tape of Shedeur making throws that no one else on the Browns roster can make. There's interview clips of teammates gushing about him. There's tweets from fans who beg to see him start. This isn't a mystery. It's an autopsy. And Cleveland, you wrote your own death certificate. Because this wasn't a surprise. This wasn't an unknown commodity. This wasn't a blind side. It was a slow-motion disaster with the volume turned all the way up. And now, Now you're going to send him to the loudest team in football. A team that will not only embrace his swagger, but amplify it. A team that will feed him media, attention, weapons, and, oh yeah, a nationwide platform every Sunday. Good luck recovering from that. Good luck selling tickets when he's lighting it up in Arlington, and your QB room is back to square one. Good luck explaining to fans why you gave up on the first genuine, modern, electric quarterback you've drafted in a decade. You can't. And that's the point. Once this trade goes through, you don't get a redo. You don't get to hit rewind when the highlights drop and Shedeur's flexing on Sunday Night Football. You just watch. You watch, you grimace, and you regret. Because this isn't just a transaction. It's a turning point. It's the day the Browns stopped being the underdog with potential and became the villain in someone else's origin story. And Shedeur? He's not mad. He's not emotional. He's focused. And he's about to make the league pay for Cleveland's mistake. So to the Browns front office, you better hope that first rounder hits. You better hope your QB carousel magically lands on a star. You better hope that when the cameras pan to Shedeur in that Cowboys uniform, he misses a few throws, that he struggles. Because if he doesn't, if he does what we all know he's capable of, then congratulations. You just made the worst trade in franchise history. And worse, everyone saw it coming, except you.